Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session. It is Thursday, July 27th, 2023. It is 9:05 a.m. This session is set to go until 10 a.m. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue Southeast, room 110 for public virtual attendance. You may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board, joining you via Zoom. Commissioner Gary Edwards in the boardroom, and Vice Chair Ty Menser is excused for this meeting. Also in the boardroom, we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez and Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. And we also have guests today to discuss the Lacey Veteran Service Hub presentation. Is Mark there or Lenise?
No, at this point, I will ask the guests to introduce themselves, Madam Chair. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kelly Adams, and I am a Special Projects Administrator at the City of Lacey.
Good morning, my name is Keith Looker. I'm the manager of the Lacey Veteran Services Hub.
Good morning, Shannon Kelly Fong, Assistant City Manager for the City of Lacey.
Good morning, Lonnie Smilum, Thurston County Veterans Assistance Program Manager.
Good morning, Shailene Baggs, Veterans Assistance Program Specialist.
Nicole?
Nicole Martinez, Budget and Fiscal Manager for Thurston
Yeah,
County.
she's sitting for Robin Campbell.
Yes.
So at this point, Madam Chair, if I may just give the floor to Keith to begin the presentation.
Perfect. Go ahead, Keith.
So let me see if I can do the magic here. That one.
Share screen.
I just want to hear this. So it just rolled it when you did that. There we go. There you go.
Thank you very much. See if I can get this right down. Well, good morning. So like I said earlier, so my name is Keith. I'm with the Lacey Veteran Service Hub. First of all, I'd like to thank the board in Thurston County for giving me the opportunity to come here today and kind of give you guys an update on the status of the Lacey Veteran Service Hub. I know that we've been partners since we first opened up in 2016. So I just wanted to let you know where we're kind of sitting at and where we kind of started. So a little bit about our history. So back in 2017, so you can see that over 2,000 of our veterans were living below the poverty level. Over 7,000 had service-related disability or service-related disabilities. A lot of them were not receiving the benefits for those disabilities. About 290,000 veterans in the state of Washington were unemployed. At the time, 23% of the victims of suicide in the state of Washington were veterans, and about half the veterans in the U.S. never had applied for any of their VA benefits. So at that time, back in 2016, the federal, state, county, and local governments and a lot of the organizations decided that there was a need for services here in Thurston County. And so we started the Lacey Veteran Service Hub to kind of resolve some of those issues. What we ended up doing is, we didn't want to duplicate services that were already existing here in the county. So we just wanted to do is provide a location where we can kind of consolidate all those services into one place. And so we opened up the hub, and then we'll kind of go in a little bit more of that as we move forward. Am I going the wrong way? Okay, yeah. Sorry. So here's kind of the breakdown. So about half of the veterans, there's about 32,000 veterans here, about 9,000 active duty that were living here in Thurston County. About half of them are either from the Gulf War or the OIF, or Operation Enduring Freedom, or Afghanistan theaters. And then the other half are kind of broken down between Vietnam, the Korean War, and World War II veterans. A lot of these, the majority of them need some kind of services, but those needs kind of differ depending on their age group. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to provide services that reached everybody, every veteran and their family members here in the county. So we started out initially, we had 5 programs in 2016. We had about 20 organizations that had agreed to initially partner with us when we started out. We currently have 9 programs, and then I have another one I should call my other, which is kind of a catch-all for anything that doesn't really fall into one of these, is we kind of include in those programs. So if anywhere during my presentation you guys have a question, feel free to stop and ask me. I don't have a problem with that. You don't have to wait till the end. So the first one I want to cover was housing. So we have several organizations. As you know, homelessness has been a problem here in Thurston County for a long time. One of the big concerns that they had when we started was the number of veterans that were homeless in this community. And so we wanted to bring in some of these organizations to kind of help relieve that. So the top 2 that are listed on there it was an agreement. The first one was an agreement between the HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, and the VA, where they provided housing assistance for veterans where they could get in while they're working and trying to kind of get back up on their feet and needed long-term support with the wraparound services being conducted by the VA. The second one was a grant that was given to local nonprofits in the community, and they kind of was oriented for veterans who, let's say, kind of needed a hand up, so that, you know, if there's something that like associated with system for 6 to 9 months and getting them into housing and kind of getting them an income, and so they would be able to move forward and become self-sufficient. Rapid Rehousing, which is a locally funded grant through different sources. So this was kind of gave us an opportunity for individuals that just needed just a quick hand up. They fell across, you know, bad luck, couldn't afford to get into housing again, and just needed some help with paying the rent, those move-in costs to get them in, and we could use those fundings for that. The Transitional Supportive Housing, we're 2 different. There's kind of a similar program. The big difference is the timeline, and so that was for chronic homeless individuals in the community where we could put them into housing. It was limited rent that they would have to pay, and then they received supportive services and wraparound services to kind of help them get back on their feet and deal with the demons that they were dealing with. The big deal is transitional is up to 24 months. Supportive housing is ongoing until those services are no longer needed. We also wanted to work with individuals that, you know, weren't actually homeless, so we partnered with Habitat for Humanity so we can assist low-income veterans and their families in getting into housing, so that they all have that American dream. And then we'll work with all veterans who are eligible for a VA loan, and so we assist them in getting those certificates so they can qualify and get home ownership also. We partnered with the South Sound Military Community Partnership, has a housing committee, and so we actually work through multiple counties and different organizations to kind of help identify some of the housing shortages and come up with plans so we can kind of resolve some of those issues, because our biggest problem we've had here on the housing side is just the lack of available housing units. We've had almost 0% vacancy rate for several years now, so we have the funding, but and I'm sure y'all are aware of that, identifying those housing and get them in housing. On the other side, there's a couple organizations that weren't listed on here that we went. So one of the Thurston County Volunteer Legal Services. So they actually come in and provide assistance, legal assistance for individuals that are suffering from eviction or getting ready to be evicted. They could kind of bring in some legal help to keep them into housing so they don't become homeless themselves. And then the Family Support Center has a grant program where they can do diversion. So if you're getting ready to be evicted, they can help pay those past due costs to kind of keep them from becoming homeless again. And then another one with Partnership and Prevention of Education, which actually has grant money that they can assist with kind of more long-term to help you so you don't get into that point where you're going to get evicted from your home. So I want to identify, kind of spotlight one of our providers. So under the housing, so we have the HUD-VASH program, which I mentioned earlier. From between 2018 and 2022, they were able to house 128 veterans here in Thurston County. At that time, we only had one case manager that managed the whole county. In 2023, they have 76 that are having housing and 12 veterans that are in the process that they've been given vouchers or in the process of finding a place to live so they can go ahead and move into that program. Also, since 2018, those individuals have screened over 1,300 veterans, kind of help them identify what their problems are and kind of work them to get them into the resources they need. This program is growing. Currently, I have 3 case managers, and they're in the process of hiring a 4th one. So we're actually going to be getting more vouchers and more assistance here in Thurston County to assist in housing the veterans in the community here. Mess this up all day. Sorry. Need the little clicker thing. So our second our second program is nutrition. So we are a satellite location for the Thurston County Food Bank. We give food out 5 days a week, anytime during open hours between 8 and 4. This is not a veterans program, so it's open to the community. So anybody who walks in the door, we have prepackaged bags of food. We give them a bag and kind of send them on their way. And then we also kind of help them identify some of the other resources like the Lacey Food Bank and the Olympia Food Bank, where they can go down, because I'm kind of limited to what I can actually do there as far as what we can give them as food, and they can get produce and other things that I can't provide there. So we assist them in getting in contact with them so they can make sure they have sufficient food in the house. We also partner with DSHS, where we can do the applications for the TANF program and for EBT program to assist low-income families in getting those services. And then we have food insecurity grants, which we'll kind of cover here. So what we discovered with the high cost of living here as it kept increasing, is we were finding more and more families were not making enough money to support, to pay all their bills. And so one of the things that was suffering was nutrition. And so in some cases, families were going without food. In other cases, the parents weren't eating, so to make sure that their kids had food to eat. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to, assist these families in getting what they needed. So what it is, so we reach out, and so actually we've been working and receiving grants from the Bob Woodruff Foundation, and the local Lions Club has been donating funding to kind of help relieve this. As you can say, since we started, and the Bob Woodruff Foundation has donated $55,000, which we've used in providing food cards that we can give to families in need so they can make sure they have sufficient food in their home. And the Lions Club has given us $5,000. So overall, we've been almost 540 families we've been able to support in this program here.
Just this year?
No, this is since 2018.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. We're going to cover this here a little bit later. Healthcare. So one of our programs is we wanted to make sure that everybody had some kind of healthcare. And this is actually like a two-pronged program. So we do physical health, and they also work on the mental health side. So we assist the veterans in getting into the VA healthcare system here. Long-term care, healthcare, which is one of the benefits of the VA, is individuals that require those services make sure that they're enrolled in those services, that assistance. There is a program for certain veterans, if you're 100% disabled, that your family can be covered under what they call CHAMP VA, which is another healthcare system. Make sure that those families are receiving that. And when we come across veterans who are not able or eligible for insurance through the VA, we work with HCA, helping get them enrolled into Apple Health and those programs to make sure that everybody has some kind of health care out here. The next two basically have to do with mental health. So we partner with an organization called the ETS Sponsorship, which is a program that works with active military members that are transitioning out of the military. They work as part of our suicide prevention program that we have. Where we're able to, they can request to have a sponsor in the local community that they're moving to, and we will partner them up with that sponsor, and that sponsor will actually help them as they move back into Washington here to make sure that have a place to stay, they have a job, and are familiar with all the services that are in the community. So these individuals just don't show up blind when they come here. The other one is mental health counseling. So we are co-located with a vet center, the Lacey Vet Center, which, if you're not familiar with that, this is actually a VA counseling program that was set up. They can provide counseling support to active duty military members, veterans, combat veterans that were diagnosed with PTSD, and any military veteran that was suffering from military sexual trauma can receive free counseling at this center. We also work with a lot of local mental health facilities here in Thurston County and up in Pierce County. They can offer mental health counseling and alcohol and drug rehabilitation. And so services either through insurance, or some of them actually have received grants from charities so that they could provide that service for free if the veteran doesn't have the ability to pay that himself. And then once again, we're partnering with SSMCP up in Pierce County, multi-county committee that we're working to try to identify the needs for mental health and healthcare needs here in the community, and finding those services and kind of consolidating them, make it easier for these individuals to receive those services. And once again, I'm going the wrong way. I'll get that figured out by the time we get down here. Yeah. So here I wanted to highlight the Lacey Veterans, or the Vet Center. So these are the numbers from 2019 to 2022. So when they initially opened up, they had one full-time counselor and one part-time counselor that was working there. They eventually were able to move up to 2 full-time counselors. As you can see here in 2022, the number has jumped drastically. And so we now actually have 2 full-time counselors and 2 part-time counselors that are working there. And the only reason that they're part-time is because they're split because they're part of the Tacoma Vet Center. And so they're needed in both locations, but as they hire more, I imagine we'll probably have at least 3 full-time counselors down here. Because there's still a large need for that counseling, and it's a lot of people are waiting to get into those services. Hey, I got it right there. Education. So our next program is education. So one of the benefits serving the military is there were education benefits that you earned as part of that service. The big one they have right now used to be called the 9/11 GI Bill, which is now called the Forever GI Bill, because they took away the expiration date, so you can use it whenever you needed it. So any of the veterans that are honorably discharged are eligible to receive those services. One of the issues we found out is that a lot of the individuals, when they were transitioning out of the military, even though that was part of their briefing, as part of their transition out, that they had those services, just kind of it didn't stick. So they don't realize that they actually have that opportunity, that they can go to school and get an education so they can get a better job when they get out of the military. In some cases, we found them, they were actually paying out of pocket to go to school when they actually had education benefits that would have paid for them to go to school. The second one is vocational rehabilitation education. So this is a special grant through the VA for veterans that are suffering a disability. Is that in addition to the 9/11 benefits, is they can actually go and go back to school to get certifications or education needed to go into a job. Unlike the 9/11, in that it's your benefit, you can use it as you choose. The vocational rehabilitation education is directed that it has to be in a field that you will be able to go back and get a job in when you graduate. So it has to be directly related to employment. Chapter 35 was an education benefit that came up with for family members of veterans that were 100% disabled, as their spouses and children can receive education benefits so they can also go to school. Partially because the disability is preventing the veteran from earning the amount of the income that he would if he hadn't been injured in combat. So also work with the Washington State has a vocational rehabilitation program, so we partner with them that assist any resident in the state of Washington with a disability to go back to school, to kind of help them get an education to go back into employment. And then of course we partner with all the private universities here, and a lot of them have special grants or scholarships for veterans and family members that are trying to go back to school. Employment. So of course, one of the big key jobs when you're getting out of the military is you need to have a job. You have that. So we partner with WorkSource. So the WorkSource maintains an office there to help individuals get into employment or get better jobs than they currently have. We also work with the Department of Labor has Employment Navigator Partnership Program. So this is actually a national program for anybody in the military, kind of similar to the ETS sponsorship. And when they're about a year out, they can identify where they're going to go, and then they get referred to a local provider. So here in Washington, we are the provider for this program. So we are now currently working with active duty military members throughout the U.S. in Asia and Europe that are transitioning back into the Washington state. We also then we work with the Goodwill of Olympics and the USO Transition Team. These are both organizations that provide training and certifications for military members and their families as they're getting out, kind of assist them in getting into employment of some type. Or even for spouses, even while they're on active duty, that so they can assist them in getting jobs while their husbands are serving in this area. So here,
Keith,
yeah.
you passed over a couple of things there. What was that, Rainier?
Oh, the Goodwill, so that's Goodwill, the
Goodwill
Olympics.
and-
Yeah, that's a Goodwill, so those are the two organizations that assist with active duty. So actually, Goodwill actually has a location up in Tacoma where they can do certifications, assisting with certifications for IT or stuff like that. But they actually have organizations, so they actually have a store, so if you're interested in retail, you can actually work up there. They have a warehouse. They have a restaurant, so if you're interested in the restaurant business, you can actually get jobs there, kind of build that experience. They have a coffee shop, so if you're interested in becoming a barista, they can go down there. And so, yeah, all these programs are free for individuals that are trying to get the job skills so they can get into employment. USO Transition Team, they work solely with active duty and their family members, and it's kind of similar as they can do some online training that they could do as they're getting ready to get out of the military to get those certifications so they can get employment.
Thanks.
So here are the numbers for WorkSource. So like I said, so they have an office in there. You can see by year how many veterans they were able to, out of Thurston County, that they were able to put into employment. And these were the total incomes for those individuals per year that they've actually brought into this community. And this is actually, this office is staffed by one WorkSource representative. So this is all done by one individual. As you can see, he's well on to this year and helping out a lot more people.
And that number's through what, year to date for 2023, but is that as of
That's by year.
June? No, I
Yes,
mean,
oh, yes. No, it was actually May when we got the
May.
numbers. Yes. There's states, so it's kind of hard to get. So next program is VA benefits, and this is probably actually our biggest program that we have. So it's more people come in looking for these resources than the majority of others. So we can assist them in getting, filing their disability claims. If a veteran is low income and is eligible for a pension through the VA, we can assist them so they have some kind of income coming in. Survivors benefits, when the veteran passes, we assist the families in getting assistance from the VA. And then the aid and attendance is actually a program designed for individuals that need in-home care or need to go into an assisted living facility, as they get some assistance from the VA to help cover those costs. Some of the challenges we're having this, and the biggest one we're having right now is is we're losing veteran service officers who are the individuals that actually do this work. This is a problem across the state, actually, as they're starting to age out. Most of those, they're all volunteers. A majority of them have been doing this for a long time, so they're starting to get that age that, you know, they can't do it anymore. So the numbers are actually decreasing, which has caused it. So one of the things that's caused here locally is we're the only location in Thurston County. And there's very few up in Pierce County or down in Mason County that have this ability to do this. And so veterans that are needing that assistance are having to drive to our location to get that. And so it's kind of causing a backlog, taking a little bit longer to get these individuals these services. The other problem we're having is, of course, as you saw from the numbers, is we have a large population that's served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, and so those individuals are getting at the age that they require that additional service, either in home or in assisted living. And so the numbers of people requesting those services has increased. And on the same line is that they're getting to that age that they're starting to pass away, and so we're getting more and more families that are requiring those survivors benefits. And so those numbers of individuals coming in has grown drastically here. So some highlights. So this is from 2020 through 2022. So this is the service officers that have been working out of the Lacey Veteran Service Hub, which actually come from 3 different organizations. We have the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Disabled American Veterans, and the American Legion, all have veteran service officers that work there. So you can see in 2020, they actually, in benefits that the veterans received from either their monthly disability pensions or back pay that are owed from when they filed. We brought in about $2 million in 2020 and $2.5 million in 2021 and 2022. That actually went to veterans in the community, which of course goes back into our economy here. Financial, so one of our programs is financial. This is actually, so we have a financial assistance and a financial management falls under here. So we have several organizations that assist. Of course, county is well familiar with the Thurston County Veterans Assistance Fund. And we also have an organization called Support the Enlisted Project, which actually receive grant funding that they can assist both active duty and currently separated veterans in paying their bills. We also get a lot of donations from individuals. So it's not uncommon when we help out a veteran is they'll come back and they'll donate money back so we can provide assistance to other veterans, kind of thank us for the assistance that we provided them. So we get to use that funding a lot also. Like I said, I mentioned financial management. So we have a couple companies that we work with that provides financial management services, whether that's budgeting or investment, advice to them. So probably our biggest challenge we have in the financials is that there's some unmet needs that just don't fall under any of these programs. That trying to find individuals that has them that it's not something that's a norm. They're not past due right now on their utilities or their rent, so they just don't really fall in the guidelines of the other programs. Some of them include like car repairs. Like some of the organizations will do car repairs. If they need to add a car to go back and forth for employment purposes. But in some cases, they're unemployed and they just need that car to go back to the grocery store to buy food and things like that. And so they don't really fall into a lot of those categories. And then individuals that had long-term debt, there's no program out there. So if they had received an eviction 5 years ago from an apartment complex and they owed money to that apartment complex, they'll not get into housing. Because none of the property management companies will approve a lease for somebody who owes an apartment complex money, kind of similar to evictions. So finding the funding to kind of help pay those long-term debts that they had. Another one we see a lot is individuals that had received fines, traffic violations or something years ago. And so that's something that would prevent them because basically they would have an active warrant in that county for a past due fine. So trying to find that funding to help pay off those fines so they're able to go back to work and kind of live a normal life. So that's one of those challenges is kind of finding those unmet needs and finding ability to go ahead and pay them. Fortunately, with that, a lot of the donations that we use, we have the discretion that when they give us some money, they said that they want us to use it to help veterans, and so we can take some of that funding to help cover some of those costs. So highlights. So this is a Thurston County Veterans Assistance Fund. This kind of shows the number of Thurston County veterans that were served between 19 and 23, and then the total assistance each year that was actually given to the veterans.
So again, with this one, sorry to interrupt, 47 is just a portion of
Right.
2023,
Yes,
so it looks like it's going to surpass pre-COVID levels.
Yes, it is.
And this is coming from the county. That's reference, right?
Right, guys, these are your guys' numbers. And a lot has to do with is, you guys have been very proactive in expanding the qualifications, so individuals that previously were not eligible for this program, so they're now being able to receive those services. And as funding is drying up in other resources throughout the community, as more and more veterans are reaching out to get this kind of funding here. So we have a legal program. This has to individuals that have.
I'm sorry, going back to
Yes.
for the county's Veterans Assistance Fund, that's the only benefits that go through the hub, but we provide different additional benefits. Is that correct?
Correct,
This is just the numbers that are going through the hub.
correct.
What about the rent portion of it that we assist?
And I think that's separate from the hub that we provide rental assistance to
That goes
veterans.
to Lacey.
We have an
we
MOU
administer
with
the
the city
rental
of Lacey.
assistance. Right?
Well,
The
don't we
facility.
contribute like 50,000?
Oh, the rental to the,
For the hub
for the hub
facility?
itself, yeah, we contributed 30,000.
Right, yeah, so we, so when we opened up in 2016, so primarily it was seed money by the city of Lacey. And then 2017, the county agreed to pay, and they've been paying $30,000 a year.
Is it 30 or 50 for some
30.
reason?
30.
Maybe I've always thought it should be 50.
That's an option.
Upwards, You got that on paper.
You know, you pick his interest.
That's good.
No, I'm not here to do a funding request here, but yeah, so yeah, we've been a partner since 2017. You guys have been helping assist in paying the rent for the facility there.
But again, that is not, the $30,000 is not part of this.
No, it's not.
It's
No.
outside, that's what we
Correct.
funnel some of the benefits, okay.
This is just for the Veteran Assistance Fund that's gone to the services there. Okay. Legal, so we actually have a volunteer attorney who comes on. He actually comes in twice a month and provides appointment services for veterans that need legal assistance. We also have a notary on site, which is a free notary service for individuals that need to use a notary. We partner with Northwest Justice Project, and the Attorney General's office has a Veterans and Military Legal Assistance Program where they offer also free military assistance. In some cases, they can provide pro bono attorneys that can assist veterans in those cases. And then lastly, of course, is Thurston County Volunteer Legal Services, which is part of our housing program. But they also come in and provide legal assistance to veterans that need that in the community. So the highlight we have on here is, here just recently, there was the VA approved funding to go into the communities to help with legal services for the veterans. Part of that money was awarded to the Northwest Justice Project, which it looks like they're gonna use that funding to bring on additional attorneys to help us improve their caseload. So they can assist more veterans and individuals in the community here.
So are those the attorney services are private attorneys, or where does the attorneys are coming from?
So it is yes, it's a private attorney. He actually has two jobs. He's a private attorney. He actually works in the Attorney General's office.
Okay,
And so he
he or she volunteers his services, her services, so there's not a compensation.
no, so
Just a
everything that we do there is free. We don't charge any providers and we don't charge any veterans or family members. So everything is at no cost.
So how is this gonna help or supplement those services, this $11.5 million?
So the part that they're gonna get they're gonna get for Northwest Justice Project is, I think when you break it down, it turns out to be about $200,000 they get a year. So that's gonna assist them in hiring on another attorney. So there'll be more attorneys in the state. So even as a VA, I think it's gonna kind of help the state in general. It's gonna help build their base of attorneys to help low-income individuals. Next program is transportation. So we actually have two vans that were donated by Intercity Transit to the Lacey Veteran Service Hub. Currently, because of the fact that we have the two vans, we're able to provide door-to-door service for medical appointments within Thurston County and any medical appointments that they have up at the American Lake VA Hospital. And we're the only service right now that's in existence that actually travels outside of Thurston County. Intercity Transit has the dial lift that can take them in appointments, but we actually will go up into Pierce County. So we actually have a couple of challenges that are starting to come up with this. Is one, we're getting more and more requests. The VA actually is sending more of their services out to the community. And so we're getting more and more requests to provide transportation to Tacoma, onto Joint Base Lewis McChord, and up into King County, up to the VA hospital up there, which currently with two vans and the drivers, it's kind of hard to make that happen. But that's one of the things that we're looking at in the future, is we're probably gonna have to expand that service.
The staff by volunteers. How-
Yes, yes. We'll cover that actually a little bit here later, but yeah, basically, yeah, a lot of our individuals are volunteers from the community that help out. And our vans, because when we receive them from Intercity Transit, they're not wheelchair accessible. So if we have a veteran that has a electric wheelchair, we just don't have the ability to transport them. So we can do, you know, if they have a walker, if they have a wheelchair that can fold up, we actually have a spare one that we have in our office that we can assist them in transportation, but if they actually need to have a wheelchair lift, there's not a van available to help with that transportation program.
Do you have that available, a wheelchair lift van, or no?
No, so the ones we get from Intercity Transit, those vans weren't designed for that. So yeah, that's, in fact, I don't think there's anybody right now that has that ability to go outside of the county and provide that to services outside, so usually it depends on,
I think the only service will be dial left.
yeah, and they only work within Thurston County, so.
Okay, thank you.
But perhaps a donated cutaway so that it has that capacity sometimes.
Yes, I'm not sure if well, I don't think none of the vans that Intercity Transit use, because they don't actually use them, I don't think any of them do, but I guess if I got donated
One of those, yeah, exactly. That's what I meant by
I
cutaway.
get a bus license. I got the hat probably, I guess. So here's kind of highlights of the program since 2019. We actually got our first van in 2017, and 2019 is when we received our second grant van. The numbers of veterans that we've been able to transport within Thurston County. We also kind of work with, so we have identified transportation assets coming out of Mason County and Lewis County, that they have bus service that comes into Thurston County here. So we can either meet them at the, down in Tumwater or at the Olympia Transit Center. And we can link up with individuals that are coming from outside of county and help transport them to those medical appointments. So these are kind of the hot topics that we're currently working on right now. Like a picture. Actually made the paper the other night too. So veteran active duty suicide. Veteran suicide has been an issue for a long time with the changes, the increasing cost of living, and some of the issues with transitions. We're discovering is that those numbers have been increasing, specifically in the 25 to 32 age group, which is usually the individuals that are just transitioning out of the military. As a large portion of them are taking their lives within that first year of getting out of the military. And so we're working with several organizations and trying to identify those individuals. So our goal is we want to try to catch them before they go into crisis. So we're reaching out to make sure that they're financially set, have a place to live, employment, so that they actually don't go into crisis. So that goes to the food insecurity program. We kind of already talked about that we received a lot of funding. That is a program that we continue to push and receive assistance with and provide those services in the community. The third one was a housing shortage. And so we discovered that, there was housing. So one of the side effects that we discovered that was affecting active duty members that were transitioning into Washington State as our next duty assignment. Is that usually when they come in, is that they stay at a short period of time in a hotel while they're finding housing, and then they move into housing. Because of lack of housing, they were spending longer periods of time, so sometimes 60 to 90 days in a hotel, which is averages about $1,500 to $1,600 more a month than they actually bring in for housing. So we were starting to find family members that were living in their cars or living in tents in the woods. And so we received some additional funding to kind of help offset some of those costs, and been working with Joint Base Lewis McChord and the South Sound Military Community Partnership to help identify resources, kind of help turn that around. Thurston County LEAD. So we do work with the Thurston County LEAD program with diversion. We are a referral source for that program, so we do refer individuals into that program that need that. And then human trafficking. So we have partnered with Innovation and to help assist in resolving some of those issues and getting those individuals out of human trafficking and getting them back. Community involvement. So we rely a lot on the community, as you can imagine. So we try to keep costs down as much as we can, simply because it's tax dollars to help pay for us, and so we feel we have a responsibility to be fiscal in everything that we do. So, and it kind of helps by keeping the community involved. We discovered that there's more there's more kind of family environment there in the services. So we do, rely a lot on that. So like I said, when we first started out, we had 20 partners in the community that were assisting. We now are over 135. I have 138. I believe you guys have a list of those current ones that we have right now. You guys were given. We received several donations, and this is just for 2022. So in 2022, we received $25,000 from the Bob Woodruff Foundation. The Dutch Brothers and actually several counties got together on Veterans Day and did a fund drive that we received a portion of that. So we received $16,000 from them. And then on that same day, actually, Panorama did a drive at the restaurant there that people could donate funds to the veterans. And so, and all of a sudden, once again, all that money was used for direct support to veterans and their families in the community here. So we do rely a lot on volunteers. So the whole front desk staff is run by volunteers. Drivers are volunteers. All our veteran service officers are volunteers. So we have one full-time employee and one part-time employee. And then currently I have 18 volunteers that are working there on a full-time basis. And as you see, the amount of hours that we've given the last 2 years, or let's say just having to pay somebody to come in and do those services. Successes, some of you guys may recognize this. Gary Walker, he was actually a longtime supporter of the veterans here in the Thurston County. He just recently retired. So this here are the numbers for 2021 and 2022, broken down by the services. They highlighted in yellow the ones that had like the biggest jump in numbers. But you can see, so we between almost 7,000 appointment hours, actually almost 8,000 appointment hours increase between 2021 and 2022 here. We have been averaging normally about 5,000 additional appointment hours every year. So one of the things that we had to do is that, so where we started out, we used to have about 20 people come in a day looking for assistance. Last couple of years kind of jumped up. So last year we were averaging 70 to 100 a day were coming in and needing some kind of assistance. Right now we're averaging about 50, so it's kind of starting to level off again. But so we had to do is our goal is we wanted to make it easier for the veterans. We wanted to cut down the time that it required them to get services. So we actually did a project improvement process where we worked to decrease those times. So by adding some technology down at the hub, we're able to cut down those times. Where in some cases they were waiting, up to 3 hours to get served, is now we're averaging about 3 minutes for an individual walks in until they actually get seen by somebody. This here is a heat map, kind of shows the location of our customers from last year previously. As you can see, so about 97% of our customers come from the state of Washington. Just over 75% are actually out of Thurston County. Of that, almost 38% live in unincorporated, and then about 30% from Lacey, and you kind of see the breakdown there. So they're kind of spread out all throughout the county. Wherever there's a veteran, we've been able to provide services to those individuals. And this is just the individuals that are within Thurston County here in a little. And other than subject to your questions, that's all I have for you guys.
Keith, let's see what the chair has to say here first.
Thank you. Can we stop sharing the screen, please? Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
One of the things, Keith, I was going to ask you about was, we haven't had the presentation yet, I don't think, from the Veterans Committee on this Binto, but that was, they've made a recommendation now, do you know, on the food?
Yes, I believe it, I think they talked about that, but yeah, I think that's gonna be included in the presentation on August 3rd.
That'll be
That's,
next
that's
week.
what's coming up
Yep,
next week.
Next Thursday.
Okay.
And they did make a recommendation for the bento
Yes.
program.
Okay. Is there a phone number that we could put up? Was that, you did have a phone number, I think it was 456-3850.
Yes.
Is that the number for the center? Say a veteran happens to watch this on our YouTube program and has questions about this or that. Is that the right number to call?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So that'd be that 360-456-3850?
Yes, that's the number, yeah.
Okay. Gosh, I don't have a lot of questions, but I'd like to make sure that the community knows that these are rights, are benefits that the veterans earned by serving their country. And I like to point out to folks that if it wasn't our veterans, wasn't for the veterans, we probably wouldn't be here today. We might even be speaking a different language. So they're part and parcel about our freedom. And Lacey was there before the county was there, helping those veterans, and I like the public to know that always takes somebody to be the spear, of the, get things moving, the lightning rod. And Lacey sure took that on, so pass that on to the mayor, will you? Thank you very much. And Keith, great presentation, thank you very much, very informative.
So one of the, so I think one of the things that we noticed in the beginning is that the service is needed throughout the area. And so we have worked with several counties to kind of help, because our goal, so we discovered we're getting veterans, we're coming down from up by Canada, Vancouver, from the ocean, to come and get these services. When these resources, there's organizations locally that can help that. So we've been working with the several other counties to kind of help this. And because this model worked for veterans, we discovered that I think it would work for anybody. And I know that Thurston County has started a kind of a services hub program also. We've actually been talking with them, so I think that's gonna be a good step future, kind of helping out the community in general.
Well, thank you to you and your team here that's making this all possible, and Lacey for starting it.
I do have a question. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, go ahead.
Go ahead, County Manager.
So, years ago, I think City of Lacey had an initiative to have the Veterans Hub be recognized by the federal government. And I think the initiative was the intent being recognized by the federal government will allow it to access actual federal funds. Is that something that City of Lacey is contemplating again, and how the county can support that initiative?
So I will say that's not something we are actively looking into. We do continue to work a lot with, federal government, some of the programs that Keith just overviewed, as well as pursue certain federal funding that is available for the hub. So just as an example, we were successful in getting a congressional directed spending funding for improving accessibility at the hub. And so that is certainly a project we are working on right now. But we, again, are not actively pursuing that, but we do work a lot with the federal government on certain programs. Keith, anything you'd add to that?
No, so I know at one time, when Danny Heck was a representative, they had introduced a bill, or were in the process of introducing a bill, is they actually wanted to fund 10 hubs throughout the US in 10 different cities, be funded by the federal government so we could replicate this process. But unfortunately, COVID hit, and so I think that kind of got sidetracked, and I don't think that initiative's ever been moved forward again, so.
Well, Keith, remember where my heart is on this whole thing if I can help, okay? I'll try to be a voice for you here with my seatmates who are very interested as well.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Keith, for coming in today and for this presentation. It was really great, and just seeing all the services that you're providing to all the veterans. It really is amazing work. So is there any additional comments or questions
No, just
for any of our guests?
Thank you for the partnership.
Yeah.
And I think the county as commissioners.
Thank
stated,
you all very
We're
much.
very interested in continuing the partnership.
Yes, and okay, it is 9:55, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.